What's up, everybody? Welcome to the High Level Husband Podcast. We're back in our podcast studio, babe. We've been using the other one a little bit more, but I'm pumped to be back in here.
Yeah.
Guys, we got a good topic for you today. We are going to talk about how to not pressure or guilt your wife into sex, the repercussions of that, and why to avoid that. Because oftentimes people think, babe, that then I'm just never going to get any.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be true in the moment, but for the long term, which we'll get into here in a little bit. So it's such a great topic, and we've had so many people deal with this one.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's a topic that people struggle with on an everyday basis if they're in a marriage that's struggling somewhat.
Yeah, because obviously, I think that fortunately and unfortunately, I mean, intimacy is such a huge part of marriage, but so many people reach out to us for intimacy
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. Now, it's the dominoes that knock it down, and it's the last thing. But as far as intimacy, a lot of people will pressure or guilt their wife
Mm-hmm.
into having sex because they're just not getting it and they're just frustrated. Their tone of voice, all of that comes out negatively into it. So let's just let it rip before we go into it, because we're going to cover all of that. But for the first point we're going to make on this, guys, is that you're going to have a short-term win, but a long-term loss. When you pressure your spouse into having sex, you might actually get sex at that moment or that day or the next day. But what happens in the long run, you're not going to have it forever. I'm 44. Diane is 43. And I almost forgot that for a second, I
Yeah,
guess.
you had to think about that one.
But we have an abundance of sex at this age. Most people don't. But the reason why we do is that we're focused on the long-term gains and not just on the short-term rewards, which is our society today. We want everything now, and we're not worried about later on. And so for this, so many people, it's just like, you guys got to be careful, because your wife might give in. She might do that, but then you're going to ruin it for later. And we're going to touch on why that's ruining it for later.
Yeah.
So, guys, the reason why this all builds for the short-term gain, but for the long-term loss, is because initially it kills off emotional intimacy. Your wife just gives in. She's not into it. She's not having emotional intimacy that actually leads you to it and all of that. And so she just gives in. Well, then what starts happening is she starts feeling that it's just a transaction rather than actual connection.
Right. It's checking a box like, oh, it's something on my chore list that I have to check off every couple of days or once a week or whatever it is.
Yeah, it really turns sex into a chore.
Yeah.
And so when it becomes a chore, not any of us is like, dude, get to take out the trash right now. Sweet, dude, got to get up there and clean out them gutters. But it becomes a chore for sex. And that's why your wife is saying, well, I'm tired. My back hurts. We'll do it tomorrow, or all these other excuses. Now, sometimes those excuses are real, but sometimes they're just excuses because it's like, I'm trying to avoid this.
Right. They're not into you in that moment.
Because it's become
Yeah.
a chore.
Right.
They don't see it as something that's enjoyable, that's bonding and all of that. Yes, they're at the end of it, there's an orgasm, and yes, you might provide that for her. But even those 30 seconds of pleasure that she gets in that moment, that intense pleasure, the rest of the intimacy isn't worth it for her to do that. And it becomes a chore rather than an actual bonding.
Yeah. And I'll add something to that too, is I bet my guess is a huge percentage of when it's guilted like that or when it's pressured like that the female actually isn't orgasming. Because if it's just a chore to her, she's not connected enough to even do that, which is why she doesn't want to do it again anyways and is coming up with excuses or, whatever it is, because she's probably not actually getting there because they're not connected.
That is phenomenal, babe, because of this one reason right there, is that she probably fakes it to hopefully boost your ego to make you feel good. But then also a lot of guys want to make sure that their wife gets theirs before they do theirs and they can finish. So she'll act like she's enjoying it to get you to be able to get there sooner and hopefully make it be more intense. Because I know just even in our interactions, as like you're enjoying it more and more, like, yo, I'm like, it's making me enjoy it more and more. And it like speeds up the process, And so that definitely plays a part into it. And then which sucks, because then her integrity is in question. But then you as a man are going to be hit. You're thinking, well, I don't get it. She enjoys it. Why doesn't she want it more? Well, because she's not actually enjoying it.
Right. Yeah. And it's either that situation, like you just said, which I'm sure is a lot happens, or nothing's just happening. He's just getting off and they're moving on for the day.
Right. And I know I've talked with a lot of couples who've said that. It's just like, oh, well, this one's just about you. Well, let's just sneak into the bathroom real quick. Or
Mm-hmm.
let me just do this for you and take care of you. Well, at the end of the day, guys, I'm not 16 and I'm just stoked to get anything. You know what I'm saying? Like we're all adults now and we've all had sex probably thousands and thousands of times.
Mm-hmm.
That after a while, it's like, well, I just don't want to just sneak into those moments. For us, it's fun every now and then.
Right.
Because we still have those moments of super enjoying bonding as well. That other stuff's just the low hanging fruit. It's not all of the fruit. And so if it just comes transactional like that, like, dude, I don't need to get off. And that's maybe a little TMI here or whatever, but it's just the truth on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next thing it does, it erodes trust because they feel manipulated and they'll get resentful because they feel manipulated and have it. You're always tired. You always put the kids first. You never want to have sex with me. You're always playing on the phone. So like, you know what? Whatever. Let's do it then.
Mm-hmm. That's where the guilt comes in for sure.
And then they do it. Then they start building up resentment. And we've talked to so many people about this where the women literally feel as it's like sexual assault after years. In that moment, it doesn't, maybe they're not saying you're raping them, but it really after a while starts in their head, starts really feeling like sexual assault. Mm-hmm. You might be hearing this and going, oh, that's BS. But it does because you're manipulating them into something. Mm-hmm. Like
right.
The manipulation, if you get manipulated into anything, you feel bad about that transaction.
Right. The pressure. It's like peer pressure when you're a teenager. It's the same thing. You feel like somebody's talked you into doing something.
Right.
That you didn't necessarily want to do.
Let's put it this way. And this is going to be graphic and this is going to be real. Let's just say you have a daughter. She's 18 years old. Mm-hmm. She's not wanting to have sex with her boyfriend, but maybe they're fooling around a little bit. And he keeps, come on, I know you want this. Come on. No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Come on now. Do you know what? I could be having sex with so many other girls right now. And I chose you. And he just keeps pressuring and manipulating and doing that. And then they end up having sex. Would you be stoked with that dude of like, well, yeah, I get it. They're dating. She should be having sex with them. No, yeah. Right? But at the same time, you're going to be like, well, that's different. They're not married. Okay, let's just say your husband's married to that dude and he's doing the same thing and she doesn't feel comfortable. Are you going to be like, dude, telling your daughter, sack it up, Sally, you need to give it to him? No, you're not. 100% not. Mm-hmm. You want them feeling safe. You want them in a loving relationship. Well, when we manipulate our spouse, you're putting up a wall, which then later on is the reason why it's moving it. After a while, if they're having no trust, they're feeling manipulated, there's resentment, and time again, they've done this, they're going to later on not want to do anything with you in the sexual department, which is why it's going to go away fully because it became a chore. It became breaking of trust. It became your manipulation. It became sexual assault. It became all of that. Well, then now they don't want to do it at all. But they also don't want it with anybody because now it's ruined sex for them because literally they're like, I don't want to do it with anybody else either because now it's become super awkward. Mm-hmm. Then they're closed off in that area and it's weird.
Yeah. That's why you hear couples that haven't had sex in 5, 10, 20 years even. We've had people in the program, that haven't had sex. And that's why, because it probably starts a lot of times like that.
And the pressure and guilt.
Right.
And people aren't sure because they're like, man, but I'm a good man. I provide and, all of this stuff. And I serve the Lord. And, I don't yell and scream at her or anything like this. It's one thing that gets it degree off course. And we've shared this before. It's just like the one time, you could be driving in your truck and you hit a pothole. Well, just get your alignment out just a little bit. And if you were to let your hands off of that truck might just be slightly out of alignment. If you just let it kept going for miles and miles and miles and miles, and there was just like a desert, you wouldn't be going straight anymore. Eventually you'd be just veering off course. Same with a plane where if you think you're trying to fly to New York from Los Angeles, if you set it off by just 1 degree, you'll end up in South Carolina by the time you're there because you're going to just be slowly off course. Mm-hmm. That's how you get to this. It's not because all the other areas as a man you're not doing great. It's because you've pressured in these areas. Now, if you have to pressure and manipulate your wife to having sex with you, chances are you're not being the spiritual leader, the physical leader, the emotional leader, the provider in all the different areas of life. Mm-hmm. You're not being a confident, strong, trustworthy man who she desires and all this, and you're missing the mark, which then leads you to have to pressure and guilt. But let's just say there is a day or a week where she's struggling in whatever reason, and those excuses are real, and you pressure and manipulate, even though you are killing it in those other areas, Guess what? Now you've let the devil infiltrate because he's waiting to kill,
Mm-hmm.
steal, and destroy. And so you might be doing a lot of great things, but now he's infiltrated and now it's weaseling his way in. And now that resentment, now she's going to start not seeing those other things because she's going to start seeing, he pressured me this. And now it's going to become, so even the next time you're not trying to pressure and you go to touch her, she's going to remember the last time and it's going to slowly start eroding it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things at play here, which is where forgiveness, transparency, honesty, and vulnerability comes in. So when you actually are two becoming one, you can talk about these things. And if I did that to you, you would tell me that I did it. And we just talked about this before we started the podcast. Have I ever pressured you or made you feel guilty into having sex?
No way.
And just to be honest, like, I'm just trying to think back, like,
That's
has
what I
there
was
been
just trying to think.
times, like,
Yeah.
has there been times years ago when I did or something?
I don't remember anything like that. I mean, I don't know. We've been together for 26 years. So, I mean, maybe back in the day, but I can't remember offhand of any times where you did something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it didn't, and there wasn't some kind of a lasting impression of something that you did like
Had
that.
done on
Right.
that. And so that's so important, guys. It also makes your wife feel unseen. When she feels unseen, it makes her feel like you're more important. Your needs are more important than hers.
Mm-hmm.
Because those excuses, like we've talked about, are very real at time. After a while, they just get used as fake ones. But then it makes her not feel like she matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is a transaction for you guys in this aspect of things. And that would feel not cool. It'd be like, let's just not even talk about sex, but let's just say, every week, let's say I got paid every week or every other week or whatever, and I worked a regular job, and you came home and you were like, hey, did you get paid today? How much money? Okay, cool. Give me the paycheck. And then you were like, okay, and you've got it all spent in different areas for yourself and those things. And then that's like, only time you ever asked me was like, and we ever had conversations was, hey, did you get paid? And other than that, like you weren't waiting for me at the door. Only on payday, you were waiting for me at the door to talk to me and ask about the check or whatever. I mean, that's maybe my hypothetical because now everything's direct deposited or whatever it was.
Our generation understands the paycheck.
You would feel like a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
you would start to resent them that, hey, this is about what I'm providing for her in the financial area, and she care less about these other things.
Right.
You would start to feel like you're being used. And I know, because I've talked to plenty of men who feel like they're being used by their wife as a paycheck.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm sure, because especially if they're not leading themselves the way that they should, then what is there for each other? If you guys aren't connecting on an emotional level, you guys aren't spending quality time together, you're not doing those things, then your life is like roommates. It's transactional.
And it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you have to do it daily, guys. You have to stay connected daily.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm so against people who work on the road, are gone a couple days a week and then home and they're away from their spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you really have to ask yourself, did God call me to do that or did he not? Well, I'm supposed to provide for my family and all these things. Yes. But did he say you're supposed to be away from your family multiple days a week, every week to go do these things? Chances are it's a no.
Mm-hmm.
That you specifically chose that because it had good benefits, good retirement, and a good paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then guess what that's going to bring for you later on? A crappy marriage.
Right. It's
and
a
God
trade-off.
doesn't want that.
Yeah. It's definitely a trade-off of which one is actually more important. Do you need to have the job that, you travel, but you make more money, or do you take the job that has like, you make a little less money, but you get to be home with your family and your spouse every day? I think that your wife would definitely agree that they would rather have a little bit less money and have you be present.
Every spouse.
Yeah.
Every spouse
mm-hmm.
would want that.
Yeah.
And that's what people go, yeah, but you don't know my wife. She wants the bags. She wants the church. Or she wants the car. She wants the trips.
Because she doesn't have the other.
The one thing. And but here's the crazy thing. If you don't have quality time with your wife, she wants that.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have quality time with God, you want those things.
Mm-hmm.
You want the things of this world. You
mm-hmm.
want sex from your wife. But if you have quality time with God, those things start to not matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. It goes both ways. And that's what's so awesome about God. When you have his relationship with him, the quality time, the things of this world don't matter as much. When you have quality time with your wife, things of this world don't matter as much.
Mm-hmm.
You remove either of those, the things of this world, matter because they're the things that are trying to fill your cup. You're trying to stuff your face with food, snack on a bunch of junk. You're going to try to buy a bunch of stuff on Amazon or buy bigger things. You want the bag, you want the trip, you want the car, you want the new house, the new bathroom, the new kitchen, all these other things. And guess what? It does not provide lasting happiness.
Mm-mm.
Jesus says, store up eternal rewards, ones where thieves and moths cannot come and touch it. That's the cool part. Like, it don't go away.
Right.
Eternal rewards.
Yeah.
So what it also does, guys, is it breaks down your communication, because after a while, then your silence is just going to be uncomfortable to talk about your feelings or talk about intimacy. And that's why when your wife asks about, are we talking about this again? Is that all you ever think about? It's just a defense mechanism to get you to shut up, because they don't want to talk about it, because it is such a touchy subject for them.
Right.
So that's why they say, that's all you ever think about.
Right. And it's gotten awkward, because you don't have that connection. You don't talk about vulnerable things, that it becomes an awkward conversation to where they don't even want to open up and talk about it because it's so far removed.
Totally. And so when she says that's all you think about, even though you barely maybe even bring it up anymore, it's such a shocking thing because of all that other stuff, the PTSD, and you're PTSD, come on in, right? Like, no, like it is. It's ruined such those moments that when you bring it up, it feels like it's every other day, even though it might be every 10 days or once a month. It feels like it's all the time because it's such a shocking moment, and so it's the same type of thing. It also weakens your attraction for each other because you seem desperate. What's attractive to women?
Definitely not somebody that's needy and desperate.
Confidence.
Yeah, confidence. When you bring confidence and you come like you're secure and confident in yourself, that's such an attractive trait. It's the most attractive trait.
Big time.
Yeah.
I love a confident woman.
Yeah.
I got far more attracted to you when you became a confident woman.
And you know what? And here's the thing with a lot of people too. You become more attractive to yourself when you're a confident person too,
Totally.
So why would you not want to?
Nobody loves themselves if they walk around all day. Just, I suck. I'm such a loser. Such a failure. Man, you hate yourself.
Right. Yeah. You look at yourself and you're like, oh, you're disgusted, But if you grow that confidence in yourself, you're like, okay, I'm way more confident in myself. So I feel good. And then I want to do those things more. So especially as coming from a woman, because so many women struggle with confidence issues, which is hence why they don't want to have sex and stuff a lot of times, just because they don't want to be naked. They don't want to see themselves. They don't want you to see them, or the man, obviously. And so it plays a huge part in it also. But if they were so much more confident, then maybe they'd want to even more.
And this is why we've talked about this so much, guys, is that I don't need Diane. Diane doesn't need me.
Yeah.
We desire each other, but we don't need each other. I just got off a coaching call right before this. I was on a high of a 10 out of 10. And guys, I'll be real with you. I've done blow. I've done the hardest of pain pills. I've done every drug in the book, and nothing compares to that feeling of just doing that coaching call and loving on somebody, but just having the spirit move like never else. And I get so filled up doing that, more so than if my wife drops her panties on the floor. That's the truth. I enjoy that. You were waiting on the bed last night for me in the bra and panties. Was I stoked? Yes. Did I enjoy it? Yes. Did it feel as good as that coaching call right there? No. I'm sorry, babe, but it didn't. And it was great. And you were amazing last night, as always. But it wasn't that. Why? Because our purpose in our life is not to just take it to our wife. Yeah. That's a small branch on the tree. It's an important one. But the whole purpose of our life is that God created us as a mission to go create disciples with our unique talents and traits. And that was mine. So when I'm in my zone doing it, guess what? I feel like $1 million. I don't even make $1 million. I'm selling myself short $1 trillion. But guess what? That's a dumb analogy because money doesn't bring you happiness. I feel like you wouldn't believe.
Well, yeah. And that makes so much sense too. I mean, if our whole purpose was to have sex, then everybody would just want to have sex all the time. But that's why he didn't create it like that. He created it as a side branch off of the main thing.
And the point of saying all that is because, but me being in that, I'm confident. I'm confident in that I don't need it. And because of that, you want it. But if I'm like, babe, all day long, like, hey, it's like a needy dog dropping a ball at your foot all the time. You're like, get out of here, dog. Like, you just stop it. I threw the ball for you 18 times. I don't want to throw it for you. I'm like, get out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why you're waiting for me on the bed in that. Yeah. Well, guess what? The night before we had sex, the day before, I think we had sex also. But it was like, here you are waiting for me again. Like, it's not that I was going back to again. it's like these things become a cool part of our life, but not our life.
Mm-hmm.
We could go without it because there's times when we don't have sex 3 days in a row and things like that,
Right.
that it's like once a week sometimes, very rare,
Yeah, I'm like,
very rare, very rare. But there's times where we're just getting busy with our ministry
Mm-hmm.
and other things like that,
Yeah.
that it's not like now I'm, I was trying to watch my French there, but now I'm not bummed because we couldn't have sex. Like, no, like we were out serving God's people that just had to get put to the back burner for a little bit. And so anyways, it reduces sex to physicality. Sex is supposed to be is physical bonding.
Mm-hmm.
People call us weird for this, but I know a lot of other physical couples that do, or married couples do this. Sometimes we'll pray before sex. Last night we were listening to worship music
Mm-hmm.
during sex.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes this emotional, spiritual thing rather than just like, I'm just trying to get my rocks off.
Right. There's a deeper connection.
So if it's just physical, and I know it may not be for you in that moment, but it is for your wife if she's getting pressured and guilt into it,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? Then that's ruining it.
Yeah.
In all those other areas.
Yeah.
It creates avoidance between her. She may avoid physical closeness altogether to escape the pressure. So she may not want to touch your leg. She may want to give you a hug. She may not want to kiss you. She just do all of that stuff, just avoid you,
Mm-hmm.
because she doesn't want to have you touching her, because when you touch her, A, sometimes you think about sex, and even if that's not what you're doing in the moment, B, she equates you touching her to sex,
Mm-hmm.
and that it creates the weirdness in her, and so she doesn't want it. So that's why she stops holding your hand. That's why she stopped sitting on your lap. That's why she stopped coming up behind you and giving you a hug.
That's why she slaps your hand off when you touch her.
She doesn't want you slapping her butt.
Yeah.
You know why she doesn't want you slapping her butt? Because of all that other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I slap your butt, grab your butt.
Multiple times a day.
Every single time I give you a hug.
Yeah.
I start out as a hug and my hands go to your butt. Every single time. 10 out of 10. 100% of the time. Not once do I do that I don't do that.
Most likely, yes.
But how many times have you said, stop?
Never.
Never. Because I don't pressure you into sex.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what it is. So guys, so this leads to disconnection. It kills her self-worth because of all the guilt trips. It also just kills your leadership in marriage. Your leadership in marriage gets ruined because of that, because she doesn't see you as a confident leader. A good leader doesn't manipulate people. A good people leads people by his actions,
Mm-hmm.
and his actions did make them desire to follow him. We follow Jesus not because he manipulates us, but because we want to follow that guy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The Lord. I hate to even call him that guy. But a good leader in a household doesn't manipulate their spouse.
No, they attract that.
They
Yeah.
want to be submissive,
Right.
a sub part of the mission.
Right.
Because of that.
Yeah, because the way you lead yourself attracts me to you. It draws me nearer to you because of the way you lead. Just like I want to say, just like I do with Jesus, because it's not quite the same, but same sort of thing. It's like I crave to spend time in the Word. I crave to, sit in solitude with God. I crave time with you because you lead yourself well, because you provide value to me in that way.
Yep. 100%. So guys, we're going to wrap this up here in just a second, but one of the last things is that it misses the purpose of sex. God didn't create sex so just you can get off.
Mm-hmm.
Create so you guys can connect and make it a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
And bond with each other.
Yeah.
Because he knows it is a pleasurable thing, but he wants you guys to bond
Mm-hmm.
from it.
Yeah.
You can always find loopholes in things, right? Like making money is supposed to be to serve the kingdom, not to just be for your self-gain.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is supposed to grow the marriage, which then will show others that there's a phenomenal marriage. Sex isn't just for self-gain.
Yeah.
When it's about I, it ruins it. When it's about we, it's better.
Mm-hmm.
When it's about he, it's everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Thank you. I just came on the spot. Anyways, guys, we touched on the main purposes, and I think that's where I want to finish, is because is it about God, guys. And so I know I don't want you to come off that like I'm dogging you or anything. If that's you, just take this as a way to do the opposite of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're going to say that, well, I'm not going to get sex if I don't pressure and do these things. Yeah, you might not for a little while. You might not. But
Mhm.
because you stop, the reason is that the guys go, well, I've stopped and then I didn't get it either. Oh, but here's the reason why. You were pouting around. You were super annoyed. You pulled back the intimacy of all emotional intimacy. You stopped being a fun guy to be around. It
Mhm.
became a transactional marriage. You stopped pursuing each other, stopped being serving ministry together. You stopped sharing vision in life. All the other things go away too. Well, I'm just not going to give it to her. I'm not even going to ask anymore. Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? Your right arm's probably a lot bigger than your left because you're taking care of yourself. So now you're bringing sin into the marriage, and that's blocking it from ever coming back.
Mhm.
God's not going to bless you while you're sinning.
Mhm.
And so all these other things are blocking it. Remove the sin, ask for forgiveness, take ownership, and lead like a high level man.
Yes.
You have to do that. This podcast isn't here about just showing you how to do that on this episode, but you do that, it will bring it back. Most guys remove asking or manipulating and doing all of that, but then they're staying just this annoying, less confident, unfun guy to be around. And so then that's not going to bring it back.
Yeah, they remove it, but then they don't change anything. Well,
Right.
nothing's going to change then.
You must repent. You know what repent means? Repent doesn't mean to say sorry. Repent means to turn from your ways. To turn from your ways. That means do the opposite. Be better.
Right.
That's the role of us men as leaders, to be better, to set the example, to shine no matter what. In good times and bad, in plenty and none, well fed or hungry. Let's go. So, anyways, I love y'all. We appreciate you guys doing this. We truly just know there's so much for your marriage. The reason why we're so passionate about this, guys, is that there's a revival of strong masculine men right now. Number one. And number two, because we've watched an insane amount of marriages turn around when guys got this part of it correct as well, on top of all the other stuff. It's amazing what happens. It's available for all, not just a few, for
Mhm.
all, every single person. Why? Because every single person was created by God. And so seek first the kingdom of God, and all of this will be added to you. If you're interested in coaching, click the link below in here. If you enjoyed this, please, it really means the world to us to rate this 5 stars. If you're on one of the platforms, if you're on YouTube, please subscribe and like. That means the world to us. It really, really does.
Yeah.
So we love you guys. God bless y'all.
Bye.